What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday night U.S. Open week. It's your boy Capper with Twitterless Steve. Steve is raring to go. We got Oakmont on deck. This is Steve in his glory. You ready for tonight, bud?
You know, I'm glad that our crack producer didn't set up the studio correctly to have the intro read go down, because I just told you before the show that kind of nervous. I'm excited, but I'm nervous for tonight. I put a lot of work into this presentation. This is the largest slideshow I have put together, not just for this show, but probably ever. I mean, I don't use PowerPoint other than like this show, by the way. But I'm kind of glad that we just went straight live. It was just like being thrown into a bucket of like a bath of cold water. So
I caught it out of the corner of my eye as I hit live that there was no intro video. But I was ready for it, so I didn't have that face, which was nice.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I mean, we're not going to do much Canadian Open talk tonight. Congrats to Ryan Fox. Turns out, so I had my dad over for dinner tonight, by the way, and he dropped the bomb that he actually had Ryan Fox tonight.
Get out of here.
So, I know, very good. Did not listen to his son, not give that out on the show, but he had Ryan Fox. For anyone holding Sam Burns, you can blame my dad because he was watching and he decided to leave. And as soon as he stopped watching, that's when Ryan Fox drained the long birdie putt on 18 to tie it. And he's like, all right, I definitely just can't watch this anymore. So he ends up leaving, and he didn't want to follow the coverage. And I only had to text him thumbs up or thumbs down on his car ride back to his cottage if Fox won. And that there are 5 really awful playoff holes of some pretty bad golf. Finally, Ryan Fox wins. So congratulations to everybody who had him. Apparently everybody in the Discord had Sam Burns. So
rough.
I know. Yep. Unfortunately, we don't have the phone. Yeah, we don't have the phone system set up, so you can't call in for any death threats to him. So apologies on that. Yeah. So, but you must be happy though.
Oh, I am. I hate Sam Burns. I feel bad for all my guys who had the tickets. But I hate Sam Burns, so that's fine with me. But he can never win again. I'll be happy. That's perfectly fine. Although he did a post-round interview where he wasn't as awful as I remember him. But maybe since he hasn't won in like 3 years, like maybe it's kind of wore off on me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, Foxy hit that ridiculous fucking 3-wood. That was amazing. And then he missed the putt. Of course he misses the fucking putt. And if he had missed that other one coming back and we had another playoff hole, I don't know what I would have done. That golf course sucks. It's terrible. We're gonna be back there every fucking year now too. I am not a fan of that golf course.
Apparently a lot of other courses in the area, which are private, turn down the Canadian Open. So naturally, as a TPC course, the PGA Tour will welcome it back with its open arms. Yeah. If it got windy and firm, I think it would play a lot different and it would be a little more entertaining. I mean, it's still a boring tee to green golf course, but it would definitely, I think, play a little harder if we had 20, 25, 30 mile per hour winds and firm fairways, but we got soft fairways, soft greens, and a little bit of wind, but it didn't really help much. And yeah, there's a reason why everybody kind of clogged together in like the teens and like upper teens under pars, because you can't really separate yourself all much at that golf course, and there wasn't a lot of teeth to it. So unfortunately, this is what we're going to get going forward. Next year, I'll just note that this is basically the Sanderson Country Club of Jackson, and just take that leaderboard and just say this is who's going to win this tournament. Because a lot of guys who did well at that golf course did well here. So
yeah, that's wild.
We'll that. All right.
But yeah, listen, overall, look, Steve's got a ton to get to tonight, so I'm not going to beat everybody over the head with it. I will say this is U.S. Open week. Come become an insider. Come get the sweats with the Discord. Andy was in there yelling and screaming all day today with the rest of us nutbags. So that was nice to see. His bet didn't work out, unfortunately, but I think he had a good week overall, as a lot of our guys did. I know one of the guys had a big bet on Fox, so that was helpful. But yeah, come check it out, man. DFS this week, for the ownership for Danny, for what Andy does is, it's a super good week to do it, man. Come in, get the sweat, and you'll get more stuff that you're about to see Steve do inside of Discord, which is nice for the in-round bets and any type of pivots for showdowns and things like that. So yeah, come be an insider today. Just come do it, man. It's worth it.
Yep, definitely. Andy seems to be gaining momentum with some of his player pools he's put together the last couple of weeks, heading into summer, helping a lot of our insiders out, making some money. Was big on Sam Burns this week. Worked out pretty well, even though it didn't work out for his outright.
Faded
call
Rory
by him. Yep, exactly. So, all right, let's get to it.
Come on.
This is Oakmont.
Can I just say this before we start going?
Sure.
Have I ever texted you before a major that I was watching an old major?
I don't think so.
Never.
I was proud of you for that.
I was like, I need to go check this fucking place out. And yeah, it was glorious. I am so fucking excited for what you're going to tell me all the changes are, because now I have it fresh in my brain, and for you to break this down so we can make some fucking money this week. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. What did you maybe before we get into this, what did you like about rewatching the 2016 US Open at Oakmont?
I mean, with the coverage, it's like watching a different sport. There was so many different golfers, so many different shots. The amount of golf I watched on that broadcast was mind-blowing to what I had get put through now. So yeah, that really stuck out to me. Look, it was funny to see Lowry still look exactly like Lowry. Some of the guys, like I texted you that one guy, I was like, whatever happened to that guy? And it's just nice to see a tough golf course, a penal golf course. I hope TV does a little better job of showing some of the false fronts and things like that might not have been there with the cameras back then. Because some of the times I was watching it, and I was like, how the hell is it rolling off like that? Because you couldn't see the undulation in the greens. So I'm hoping the new cameras will pick up that a little better. But man, it was a beautiful course, played tough. I'm so fucking excited for this week. I'm so excited.
Yeah. One of the things I got left from the editing room floor on this presentation tonight, my TED talk on Oakmont, is the way they handled the Dustin Johnson rules infraction situation. I mean, that I remember it, but I didn't remember it being just such a dominant, like, what the hell are we watching situation. And just watching how the USGA handled it is completely egregious, with just walking up to Dustin Johnson and going, okay, did your ball move? He's like, oh, I don't think so. He's like, okay, well, we're going to check the tape, but you keep playing and
we'll be back.
Yeah. And not only that, they told everybody else on the golf course, they're like, hey, by the way, the leader, Dustin Johnson, might have a 1-stroke penalty, but we're not sure yet.
It's beautiful.
It was completely crazy. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And like, there's no way he caused the ball to move.
No,
I don't know how they came to that conclusion.
I wonder if they would have enforced the penalty if he didn't have the cushion.
Oh, I think they would have. This was still the Mike Davis days. I think they would have. I think they would have firmly inserted themselves into the situation at that point. Say like, you have to sign for a card. And also, by the way, we're coming off of just Dustin Johnson has been having all these blowups in the final round, and yet again, like, it's just not easy for him. He had Whistling Straits, the rules infraction there, where that cost him the playoff spot. He had his meltdown in sunny Pebble Beach. He hit a hosel shank at Royal St. George's. You know, there's been countless times where DJ came so close, the 3-putt at Chambers Bay too. And we're just adding this into the mix. Like, what is it going to take for this guy to actually get a win? But he put his foot down everybody's throats on the back nine on Sunday. He played great and got the convincing one. We'll go over that 2016.
The announcement thrown so much shade. It was him and Lee Westwood, and then Sergio was like in the group before him, and they're like, between the three of them, they're 0 for 180 in majors. I was like, God damn.
Yep. Yeah, Sergio is actually going to have a very central part of this this show tonight. I think you're going to very much enjoy it. So, all right. Well, before we get to it, let's talk about these guys. Do you know who these guys are?
Steve, you know the answer to that question.
Okay. This is Henry Phones and his son, William. And these are the men.
There's a son? They both
look
like
that's his son. And these are the men that built Oakmont. So to give a background on the Phones, they made their money in Pittsburgh, like a lot of people made their money in Pittsburgh, through iron and steel. They had a large iron and steel business. They ended up selling to Andrew Carnegie in 1898. And that's how they gained a lot of wealth from that transaction. And after that, they started gaining an interest in golf. Now, the reason why I put together a 112 slide show tonight, by the way, side note, I went out to dinner last night with my wife. She's going to kill me for saying this, but I went to dinner with my wife last night, and we were talking about the show, and she said, look, like, you are showing your age by saying PowerPoint. Like, what else do you actually use like PowerPoint anymore? So apparently I have to come up with a new, like, cool
Do people not use it anymore?
What's that?
Do people not use it anymore?
Apparently, like, I'm showing my age by referencing on a podcast as PowerPoint. And the way I say it, apparently to have a very nasally Western New York accent, PowerPoint. So I'm going to work on how I say the word PowerPoint. And apparently I need to come up with a new way to present it on the show to make myself not look like a dinosaur. But I digress. This is the phones. And we would not be here tonight if it wasn't for a mishap with a bicycle tire. Okay. And let me tell you why. So Henry, being the very, generous guy he is, I think either one of his grandkids or somebody had a flat tire with the bike. Back then, you didn't take it to a bike shop. You did it yourself because you're a man. And he took out a blowtorch and a hot iron weld, and he repaired it. The problem is that he didn't have the protective eye gear that you needed to do this job. And he ended up seeing spots in his eyes, and he damaged his eyes there. Unfortunately, medicine back then wasn't very great. They didn't have WebMD in order to like Google search all this stuff, like what it could be. And the doctor said he had a rare heart condition based on the spots in his eyes, and that he only had 2 to 3 years to live. Now, this devastated Henry. And he ended up, this is after he sold his business, he ended up going around the country and he started to embrace golf. He actually also went to Scotland, went to all the famous courses over there. They were very good golfers in their own right. They won a bunch of amateur championships, him and his son. And he ended up traveling the world, collecting information about golf courses and, especially in Scotland as well. Well, 2 to 3 years later, he went back to the doctor and said, like, hey, I'm not dead yet. What gives? And the doctor said, oh, sorry. We messed up. You actually just had spots in your eyes. You're not actually dying. Which, side note, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, no shit.
You had to think you have a terminal disease for 3 years. And after that, though, he felt he had a new lease on life and fully embraced the game of golf. Now, these two, and he had another son named Charles, they used to play at a country club called the Highland Country Club in Pittsburgh. It was only a 9-hole golf course, and they considered it too easy. So they decided to build a real challenge, and they wanted to build the hardest golf course in the world. And it was at that point, the phones, Henry and William, WC here, transitioned to be, basically living out their life to be complete assholes. And only an asshole who is sadistic would build a golf course like Oakmont, to the point where that culture has been ingrained in Oakmont through the years. The members take pride in the fact that their golf course is so incredibly difficult. They want to be spanked, and then they want to thank whoever spanked them over and over for it. And they also, we'll talk about the renovation. One of the decrees to Gil Hanse was, do not make this golf course easier. So we'll get to some of the things they did, try and maintain a lot of the toughness. They also had a couple family mottos. You'll like them. So the first one is, this was from William: a shot poorly played should be a shot irregularly lost. So basically, if you hit a crappy shot, you should lose the ball. Simple as that. This one reminds me a lot of things you have said, by the way, and I think you're going to appreciate it.
Okay.
Let the clumsy, the spineless, and the alibi artist stand aside.
That's right. I love it.
What's your reaction to that quote?
That's a great quote. Mm-hmm. What year was that from?
This was 1904. This is like 1904.
It's so eloquent. Like, it's just like, the alibi artist. I love that.
Yeah. Do you think they would like Colin Morikawa?
They would hate Colin Moore. They would hate a majority of golfers now, I would imagine.
They probably would. Now, when I mentioned Oakmont Country Club, and you just watched the 2016 U.S. Open, and you've heard a lot of things about the course last couple of weeks. What makes to you? What makes Oakmont tough?
The greens.
Okay, greens is one. What else?
The penalty for missing a fairway. You're dead.
Like the rough.
Yeah, the rough, but the greens and the rough. Really, I mean, those are the big things. Like, the greens are just evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I saw so many 3-foot putts being missed. So many.
Well, many by Shane Lowry.
Many by Shane Lowry, which I
Yes.
enjoyed greatly as well.
Yeah, we'll get to he's also a prominent feature of this show tonight. And so I'm just gonna give everybody examples from that round you showed, and also the Bryson video too. Did you watch the Bryson video that he put out?
I didn't.
So I'll save my commentary for that later, because we're gonna have a whole discussion about Bryson and some of the things he said in that video a little later. So, but let's just go over, reintroduce everybody to Oakmont and just go over what makes this really difficult. Well, first off, like you mentioned, the rough. The rough is super penal. They take pride it is going to be 5 inches, on the golf course, and it's going to be, and considering how much rain they've gotten, it's going to be pretty thick and gnarly. It's going to be quite difficult. This is from Bryson's video. This was a green. I think he missed the green left on 8. And he walked up to this ball. He's like, where the hell even is this ball? And you can see it's just buried deep in this rough. It's like nesting together too. It's just, you're going to get a lot of that.
That's nightmare fuel.
Yeah. You're going to get a lot of that this week. Here's also Ethan Tracy, relative no name at that time. He got through into the US Open, ended up making the cut. That's pretty good accomplishment for him. But he found himself in the rough at plus 14, a nice right plus 14 on the 10th hole on Sunday. And he's in this ankle deep rough right here. And he hits it and he does a little pirouette or something with the follow through. And it just bounds into even worse rough over on the left here. And he, got effed pretty much like that. And, and why it did this happen essentially? What's Henry and William? What are they?
They're assholes.
Yes, they're assholes. That's why the rough is this long. As you also mentioned too, as you mentioned also too, the greens. The greens are diabolical. They're fast. They're going to run 14, 15 on the sit meter. They're crazy undulated. There's not a straight putt. Oh yeah, it's like you said, it can definitely be nightmare fuel when these things are running very fast and you get the ball rolling the wrong way on them. It can create a lot of issues for you. So, for example, hey, it's your good buddy Shane Lowry. Now, Shane Lowry at this point, he was co-leader on the 14th hole on Sunday, and he was a struggle bus that day. He entered the final round
already dropped 3 shots.
Yeah, I mean, so if you don't remember, there was a big rain delay at the beginning of the tournament. It pushed everything back, and they ended up finishing up on Sunday morning, the final round. And Lowry played really well on that morning. Ran up to a 4-shot lead. He was 7 under heading into the final round. Yep. And then just did typical Shane Lowry things on Sunday that we've seen him do for basically the last decade.
I want to rewatch that. I want to rewatch the Open. How did he win a major?
Well, you will, because we're going to Royal Portrush in a month.
Oh, I'm definitely watching that then, because I can't fathom how this guy won a major after watching him all these years. Lowry
did everything that he usually doesn't that week. He basically walked on the sun, pretty much. Nice. But here's Shane Lowry. Just line up for I would say a 5.5 foot putt. Yeah. Look how far to the right of the hole he is aiming though. He's aiming a good cup and a half, 2 2 cups at this point. Yep. It's on a 5.5 foot putt. But it's 5.5 feet, clean it up. But what are Henry and William?
Assholes.
They're assholes. And look how much this ball just nosedived in front of the hole. And you can just see the reaction from Shane Lowry. Something we have seen from him over the years. He somehow missed it below the hole on a 5.5 foot putt. It nosedived that hard.
And it was 2 cups outside, and he still missed it.
Yeah, exactly. He started this way out on the right of the hole there, and it's still nosedive. Ends up taking a nice little snack on his putter after that. Taps in for par. But that's just what happens on the greens here. Even the short putts, you absolutely have to be on your toes here.
You gotta be locked. You have to be locked. You have to be locked in, even for the little bunnies, the little 2-footers. You better be locked in, just like it's a 15-footer.
Oh, for sure. Now, even this can cause nightmare fuel when you're off the green. Here's Bubba Watson here on Sunday early. Now, Bubba was already making a mess of this hole, so he chose to try and play down the wrong fairway. And some guys tried to do that in 2016. because some of these, and I'll show you some of the holes, just the driving corridors are so tight and there's so much trouble off of it that some of these guys tried to go to opposite fairways. And it worked to varying success. Bubba, though, got in a lot of trouble. He played it on the fourth fairway, but he ran it too far down and got into the rough. And he had a horrible lie. Ends up advancing to this greenside bunker well short here. He's short side as well. So he ends up getting the ball up to green, and he puts it right in the front here. No big deal. Probably going to get 2-putt for bogey, whatever. But what's Henry and William?
They are assholes.
They're assholes. And somehow the ball just kept going and going. He went over the green, by the way, down a collection area. And now he's like, okay, I'm in a world of hurt here. So he gets up for his 4-shot. He pulls putts up here, but the green is very repellent on the backside there. Everything rolls down towards the back there. Did not get it up and down there. Ends up rolling back to his feet. He has to try it then again. He ends up making a 7 on the hole. So the phones definitely punished him for trying to hack his way around Oakmont by going down the wrong fairway. So here's another one of your boys. Hey, it's Jason Kokrak.
Yeah, I know. I saw him. When I was watching earlier. I was like, oh, I miss you, buddy.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot of live guys in this, by the way. They're being featured. And so this is the drivable second. It was set up at 320 yards. And there's a lot of options on this hole. Some guys, like when I was watching the coverage, some guys chose to lay short of this center bunker right here. Some chose to pull 3-wood to go over it to kind of have like a chip shot up. And then some guys like Jason Kokrak pulled driver to try to bounce it up. And he actually hit. Awesome shot. Ends up bouncing it all the way up to the green, about 18 feet short. It's like, man, like that's pretty good. Like, he's got to go eagle. But what's Henry and William? Who are they?
They're assholes, sir.
They're assholes. And there's a giant false front on the second, and it rolls all the way back down. I felt so bad for Jason on that. I'm like, oh, it's such a good shot. It's not getting rewarded, though.
Nope.
So, but you know what? No big deal. I mean, he's right at the front of the green here. He's got a wide opening, He's not the best, chip of the ball. He ends up pulling putter like we all do. And he decides to putt it back up here. And, putts, it does a pretty good job. Gets about maybe 8 feet or so below the hole. Not bad. But again, Henry and William are
assholes.
They're assholes. And that ball ends up catching the wrong side of that false front, and it just rolls all the way back down.
The hands on the hips are perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I made sure to capture that specific one. It's just like, what do I got to do? Actually, Kokrak ended up getting up and down for par on that one. Yep. So good job by him. But yeah, I mean, that's an example of just how these greens can just be an absolute nightmare. Like there's characteristics about them make them like Wingfoot. Like sometimes there's little backstops you can kind of use to funnel the ball back towards where the hole location is. But there's also a lot of severe roll-offs. And with the green renovation they've done, a lot of those roll-offs off the edges are now accentuated to where they're a little more repellent than what they were. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is an example of just how some of these greens can be very repellent. Like there's almost a Pinehurst characteristic with some of the greens we saw last year and some of these where they just it looks like you hit a good shot, but the greens are so fast and slick and it just catches the wrong side of a slope and it just rolls and rolls and rolls. It's not on every single green, but there's some characteristics, and this is an example of that. You hit a relatively a good shot, not a great shot, but a good shot, and it just goes horribly wrong for you. So the bunkers are also something that is very difficult at Oakmont for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously everybody thinks about the church pew bunkers. That's the eye candy here. These are the bunkers between the third hole and the fourth hole. There's also another mini set of church pew bunkers over on 15. And I mean, look, if you're definitely in some of this fescue or you're up against the lip here, they can create some problems. But overall, though, as long as you're not really close to, one of the grass rivets there, you're usually fine. Sergio, unfortunately, though, ends up hitting into this is the one on 15.
I watched that. I watched that today. It was so funny.
It enters the earth like the Chicxulub asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And where is it? He ends up taking unplayable. That's an example of you hit it into the church pew and it just goes it just impacts in. And it goes really wrong. I also enjoyed that too. But these bunkers, there's a lot of fairway bunkers, and they're pretty penal. And it reminds me a lot of some of the bunkers you see like over in Scotland, like some of the Open Championship ones, like the Royal Troon, where, you know, they're not very deep, but they're wide, and they got really steep faces to them, where just like you almost feel like you're in a phone booth trying to hit out of them. And you have a lot of lip issues with them, and they're very close in proximity to the fairway, and there's a lot of them. You can see this on 14 here. This is a layup hole where guys just basically hit iron. But if you miss, like you can see just even from the overhead, a pretty steep face on this bunker right here. These 3 bunkers, like you're right up against the lip. You know, that can foil a lot of plans. You know, even though it's a shorter approach shot, it's never visually appealing when you're trying to hit a good approach shot into a green to have like a giant lip that you got to worry about too. And just to give you an idea of what these things look like, this is Adam Scott on number 1. Like he's pretty like that's a pretty steep face. Yeah. Now, lucky for him, this is on number 1, which has a pretty steep downhill hole where you got to bounce the ball to the green, but still, like, you got to get the ball up pretty quick. It can cause a lot of problems for you at Oakmont. You know, unlike some other venues where they're pretty wide and you don't have lip issues, and, you know, sometimes being in the bunker is a little more favorable to being in the rough.
Like these guys love being in bunkers. I can't remember who I heard talk. I just heard somebody talking about it last week, and they were like, "Yeah, I'd much rather be in the bunker." I'm like, "Yeah," because it's just such an easy shot for these guys.
Yeah, especially the ones where it's like really like Wingfoot had like really the thick rough, but the bunkers were pretty big, and so you rather be in the bunker. Same thing with like Torrey Pines, like they're really long, and you don't usually have lip issues unless you're like up against one of the fingers there, where you're actually okay, get in the bunker. That's good. Like here though. Like you get in there, you're like, okay, I got a lot of lip issues. No, it's no better than actually like being in the rough at that point, because I don't have a very good, you know, visual to the green. I got to worry about this lip here. So that can be very challenging to this place as well. The greenside bunkers also are very deep, some of them, and very difficult. This is the 17th. This is the drivable par 4. From, you know, for a lot of guys, some guys chose to lay up on this hole, but you can see like a set of 5 very deep bunkers well below the putting surface that slopes really hard from right to left here. And so, for example, you got Jason Day, who at that point was the number 1 player in the world. He was kind of in the mix, but, you know, he really needed to get this up and down for birdie, and then birdie 18 to like maybe get 3 under and kind of make it interesting at that point, because, you know, DJ and Lowry and Scott Piercy had a lot of holes in front of them. They could definitely blow up, and maybe he can get a win out of this. So he drives into the big mouth bunker. That's the large front bunker on the right here. And, you know, he's one of the best scramblers in the world. He's got a lot of green to work with. But what are Henry and William?
Assholes.
They're assholes. And he gets it up there, and the green's just running so fast and slopes so hard from right to left. He has pretty much no chance to stop it, and it rolls all the way down into the bunker on the other side. He goes bunker to bunker. So now he's short-sided at this point, but he's a world-class scrambler. But he doesn't have a lot of margin for error at this point. By the way, this is Bryson, skinny Bryson, just looking at Jason Day up at the top.
Yeah, Bryson was so young. He was still coming off the amateur low.
He was.
It was wild. Like he was skinny and young, and Jason Day was world number 1 at this point, and he was young and not vertigo and going to Disney and like and not wearing the fucking Malbon shit.
Yeah. He's also in shape too. Like he's a unit,
dude.
At this
he was
time.
a unit, 100%. It was wild to see. You forget about this stuff sometimes.
I know. I mean, he everyone remembers 2015 as the year of Jordan Spieth, but the second half of 2015 was Jason Day. He was winning everything, and then it continued into 2016. Won the Players, and he was a big favorite here. But anyways, he doesn't have a lot of room for margin of error. But William and Henry, what are they?
Assholes.
They're assholes. And he got a little too cute with it. Ball hits the face of the bunker, goes back in, and that is the end of Jason Day for this tournament.
But you know what? They didn't drop him from coverage. They still showed more of him, amazingly.
Well, they only have one. He only had one more hole. I mean, it's a world number 1. You might as well show him.
That's
that
fair,
point.
I guess.
Yeah,
that's fair, I guess.
So, all right, the ditches. This might be something that maybe you don't think of.
So what's funny is they talked about it on the broadcast, And you mentioned something. I don't know if we were texting back and forth or what. And so I did pay attention to them today when I watched, and those make me excited as well.
Yeah. So when the phones built this, they're very inspired by a lot of Scottish golf. They want to make this like inland links, and these ditches, these series of ditches, kind of remind me of things you would find over there. It reminds me of like a burn that you'd find at like St. Andrews or Carnoustie or anything, like just a narrow, just penalty area that would kind of serpentine its way through a golf course. It's in proximity to certain holes in your eye line, and this property has a pretty big series of ditches. They find that definitely are very penal. As Graham McDowell found out, this is on the right side of 5. You just see like he actually thought about playing it, but you're in this ditch. It's basically a 1-stroke penalty. And then you got dropping like the 5-inch rough here too.
That's McDowell, right?
Yep, that is Graham McDowell there.
So I watched him do that, and then he takes the unplayable and he puts it in deeper rough up there.
Yep. Yeah, because he's a very short hitting guy. So I might be wondering, why am I showing this picture? Do you remember this from rewatching?
I vaguely, but I think I was cooking at the time.
Okay.
What is that?
So Sergio found a baby bird next to the 8th green. And this is just after Sergio had splashed in from the bunker for birdie to get to 2 under, like pretty early. Like Sergio was very much in the mix. And then he was walking off and he found this baby bird just sitting behind the green. So he picks it up, ends up giving it to this volunteer here to like save it. But what's Henry and William? What are they?
They're assholes.
They're assholes. And they probably would have preferred that Sergio just stomp on this baby bird and kill it.
Agreed.
Because that's what they want everybody to do when they play Oakmont at Oakmont. And then the very next hole, using the forces of karma, Sergio just tugs his tee shot a little far left, and this ditch is in very close proximity to the fairway, and it just bounces into the ditch there because he should not have saved that bird. He should have killed it to keep in the spirit with Oakmont. This is Spanish, by the way, for get effed, by the way. So but that's how ditches come into play here. There's a large ditch system in front of 5 that you got to carry. They can be found. They actually did some expansion work with the ditches. I'll show you in a little bit. There are actually some fairways as well. They're on play in every hole, but they're on several, and you definitely can find a lot of trouble if you're there. There's no water hazards, but this basically acts as the hazard.
That's about to say that's just might as well have put it in the water.
Yeah, on the golf course. And then topography. Like, if you just use Google Earth, you probably would mistaken you see some of the elevation changes. We probably would think it's kind of a flat piece of property. This is actually a very hilly piece of property.
Pittsburgh's hilly as fuck, man.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
I was gonna say, so my wife's from Pittsburgh, so I've spent a fair amount of time in Pittsburgh, and it's crazy hilly. Like it's like this, yeah.
Yeah,
is it as Augusta?
No, I wouldn't say it's as bad as Augusta. I wouldn't say it's bad as Kapalua, but it's not Bay Hill if we're thinking that. We'll talk about some of the implications about hitting fairways here, like if it's easy or difficult, and some of the topography plays a role in that. There's definitely some holes where you are hitting from uneven lies. Like on 10. You're hitting downhills to the green, the ball, and you're hitting from a downhill lie there. There's some holes where the fairway slope pretty hard from right to left. The ball's above you or below you. I wouldn't say it's as extreme as some of the examples you see at Augusta, but yeah, you hitting from uneven lies can definitely be a benefit if you're good at it. So I tried to find a big, large view of the topography to kind of show you the rolling hills. I couldn't find a great picture. It's basically the best.
That's a good shot, though. That shows it enough.
But yeah, you can see the rolling topography of this golf course. This is pretty significantly uphill, and some of these hills are played very uphill. They play very downhill. For example, here this is the 3rd hole, and
look at this. Look at the slants on that shit.
Yeah. So the reason why I picked this one is Graham McDowell laid way back on this hole. I don't know if it's just because he's such a poofer or this was by design, but he had I think he had 200 yards into this green. But I picked this picture because you can see just how hard this fairway slopes from right to left here. Like, that's extremely pronounced. Like, most guys are pushing it up towards these bunkers over here. So they would have the ball above their feet. And the challenge of this hole is while the fairway slopes from right to left, the green slopes from left to right. So, which is just, that makes, yeah. So it's a hook lie into a green that runs basically away from you at that point. Like, that's
so evil.
It's not easy. So, especially if you miss left, like, you're basically dead. But this is an example of like how like some of the fairways that can be uneven lies were based on the tilt. This is the view from the 17th hole. This is way uphill. It's about 40 feet up the hill. You're pretty much hitting to a blind like tee shot here. Like, either you can't see the ball land the fairway above you, or you can't see where the ball ends up near the green. I remember Justin Thomas pulled driver. He hit a vicious snap hook somewhere over here. I think he hit somebody. He's like, where did that go? So he just blasted anywhere, just, and just he figures it out.
I'm pretty sure JT had a fucking dip in when I was watching today.
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me. He didn't play all that great. He also had hideous pants on Sunday.
Oh, so bad. You know what's so funny? They flashed to him, and I was like, that's fucking JT. And then they pushed on him, and I was like, yep, JT, of course. And then they zoomed in on him, and I don't remember. He doesn't dip anymore. It doesn't seem like, anyway. Yeah.
Well, this is an example of some of the like some maybe off-hill shots that you do have at Oakmont. And here's an example of the downhill shots. This is the one that everybody's going to talk about. I remember one of the good things about Fox was they used to have something called brownie points. And this British guy, I forget what his first name was, but his last name was Brown. And he ends up pulling out a beach ball. And he just lets it go. And to show the elevation change of the first hole, the beach ball just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. And I'm like, this is freaking brilliant. Like, this is great. Like one of the things I appreciate about Fox too, they had Gil Hanse on the coverage. Like, they actually talked about the golf course and the architecture.
Why did Fox,
bring up little graphics and like out of the golf game and stuff? What's that?
Why did they get out of the golf? Why did they get out of the golf game? I thought the broadcast was
it just was too expensive. And so they ended up selling the rights back to NBC to get out of the contract early. Like, actually, I think technically Fox is still paying a portion of the contract just to get out of it. And I would love to see them come back.
Oh my God.
I think they did a good job. They were on the cutting edge of a lot of camera work and drone shots. They had the microphones. Like, they actually made an effort to show a lot of like rapid fire shots. And I remember back then people complained about it, but that's like basically what we want now. Joe Buck was great. Like, I know people don't like him, but like, he was a professional. Like it felt like
he had great questions for the smart people. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't Jim Nance trying to take over the broadcast and show how smart he was. He would ask like a purposeful question to somebody who would know the answer and give it a good answer, and he would step back. It was that broadcast was a fucking A++. Like, it's night and day compared to what we get to now.
Yeah, well, I'm excited too because I mean, I want to rewatch the Fox broadcast of Shinnecock. Like, that was
that'd be a good one.
That would be a good one too. Yeah, like the golden age of us rewatching final rounds on Fox. It's pretty good. And like you said, he asked really smart questions, and it just felt like a big event. Like, he was Mr. Fox NFL Sunday, and like, it just felt like a big event that Joe Buck was calling this. Like, it was great, and I wish they would come back. And the contract is coming up, and there's talk that NBC might just drop golf altogether. So maybe Fox will step in.
I thought that's what they were going to do anyway. Remember, because we used to have to pay for with Thursday, Friday was NBC, whatever it was, Inside, whatever the hell, and we used to have to pay for that, and now we pay for ESPN Plus. So I don't understand why they're even going back to fucking. I don't know. I don't like any coverage, Steve.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so most guys would try to leave it short of the slope here because this slope's about 40 feet downhill. And the problem, though, is that once it reaches the green, the ball just keeps going downhill. And that's why it had the second lowest green regulation rate in 2016, 39%, because the ball, once it just hit the ground and it was going a little too hot, like, it was just so hard to keep it on the putting surface. Everything just kind of funneled to the back here. That'll come into play when we do a different discussion in a little bit. But that's an example of like a severe downhill shot that they have. And look, I mean, who would be sick enough to create one of the hardest golf courses in the world on a piece of land that is significantly undulated and you don't have a flat lie? A pair of assholes.
Assholes.
There you go. So here's the GCSA report. We'll just go over some specs of it. So as we'll get to in just a second, Gil Hanse came in 2023 and performed a restoration / renovation of the golf course. He's basically known now as kind of like the US Open doctor at this point.
Okay.
He's done.
He's a masshole.
He is he? Yeah, I guess he is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like he renovated Wingfoot. He did LACC. Like he's had his hand in a lot of different renovations of US Open venues over the last couple of years, and this was one of the ones he did. So as part of the renovation they did some green expansion. They didn't rebuild the greens, but they just expanded the edges. They found old pictures, and just over time, like you see it at a lot of golf courses, like Oak Hill had this, where just sand builds up over time as people are coming out of the bunkers. It creates little like ridges around the edge there. It kind of creates like a little buffer where if a ball was kind of rolling towards the back end, it might stay on. Now, what they ended up doing was they reclaimed some of these areas on the edges of the green where now it's a little more repellent in nature, to where if you're now kind of on the wrong side of a slope or the ball's rolling the wrong way, it's going to roll maybe more towards the rough instead of maybe the center of the green. So that's one of the things they did. They renovated all the bunkers as well. They added some fairway, and I'll show that in a little bit. And they added 250 yards of tees. The thing is, though, I don't think they're using all of that yardage. When I'm comparing, I'll show you the comparison of yardage between this year and last year, or in 2016. I think it's only like 120 yards, I think, is the difference. Average green size, 8,500 square feet.
Huge.
Yeah, huge greens, but with all the significant undulations to it and how fast they're running. Like, and this is actually, I heard a comment too where somebody was saying, like, I don't know if I really want like a 70-foot putt like on these greens, with how severe some of them are. Maybe I would rather have like a chip shot. Yeah. So, average fairway width about 28 yards. It's narrow, but it's not the narrowest that they could do. Agronomy wise, so I already mentioned the rough mix of bluegrass, ryegrass, and poa annua, 5 inches. That's pretty consistent throughout, tee to green, fairway, same grass. The poa annua, though, this is one I want to talk about. So cut very short, by the way, only 0.08 inches. Usually like this week, we saw the greens cut to like 0.1 inches. So cut a lot shorter. It's poa annua, though. So we're going to have another week of dealing with poa annua. Here's the thing, though, about this poa annua. I made reference last week to how poa annua basically has a memory and remembers how its parent seed was cut.
Yeah.
And because the greens at Oakmont are cut and rolled so much, and based on how they're maintained throughout the years, they no longer bud. So these are, even though it's poa annua, like these are some of the truest rolling greens you will find. Like they're immaculate. They're nowhere even close to what you would find over on the West Coast. So don't be confused by that. Like it's similar to how Wingfoot, those are also poa annua greens as well, but because those are triple cut and rolled so much, they're just very consistent surface. So it's going to behave more like that. Like, so don't look at like Pebble, don't look at Torrey, don't look at even Riv. No. Like those are maintained differently. Go ahead.
Can I ask you something? So I've heard, it might have been in the Discord, like they talk about like Philly cricket being similar, but Philly is like 4 hours away from Pittsburgh. That's like me saying like Alabama is the same as St. Augustine. Do you know what I mean? So is it the same?
Well,
it seems very far away just because it's in the same state.
So this would behave more like a bent grass because it's so consistent. So agronomy wise, even though it's POA, I would probably agree. There's some significant undulations of Philly cricket. I don't know if it was the greens were running quite as fast as what we're going to see this week, but there was a lot of undulation to it, and there's a lot of tilt to it. These are classic greens. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I think that's okay. It's not a terrible comp. So you might want to keep that in mind for some of the guys that maybe do putt well over that golf course versus here. Yeah, I don't think that's a huge stretch.
Okay. I just wondered if they were like, oh, it's the same state, but Pittsburgh and Philly are so far away from each other.
No, I mean, like when you look at like classic era like greens, like they're all, I mean, there's subtle differences between them, but a lot of them are constructed in a lot of similar.
The Country Club,
Brookline is So they had to run them slower. They're smaller.
I know they were.
And there was more like they're more
smaller.
tilted, not like
Okay.
on like crazy. They're more like
Okay.
like that. So
Okay.
I don't know if I would go that far with that.
Okay.
But that's a agronomy note with it. So let's go back to 2016. So
Scott fucking Piercy, unreal.
So we did not have in-tournament strokes gained. So what,
No.
or like any like the predictive metrics that data golf like measures that I would like talking about. So really, we just have to kind of go back and kind of eyeball it just based on what these guys were doing pretty well coming in, what they weren't doing well. So no surprise. I mean, this is a demanding golf course. Most of the guys that finished inside the top 10 were pretty high up in tee to green. Jim Furyk was injured during the first part of the year. He only had like 5 tournaments under his belt. So he didn't have official stats. Just eyeballing his data golf page, it's basically Jim Furyk stuff. Like
it looks like Jim Furyk died.
It does. But basically what Jim Furyk was doing heading into what Furyk was doing heading into the Oakmont that year, just typical Jim Furyk stuff. He was hitting a lot of fairways, did not hit it very far, did not gain any strokes off the tee, but irons were great. He was gaining a lot of strokes with his irons. Putting was kind of hit or miss. That's Jim Furyk. Scrambling is okay. But basically he was just your accurate ball striker who hit every green. So just keep that in mind here. Like you can kind of fill in the gaps of approximately.
Is this Colin? Is Colin the new Jim Furyk?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say Russell Henley is probably the new Jim Furyk.
Russell Henley shops at Kohl's. I don't trust him.
I mean, so does Jim Furyk, right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Furyk's a local guy down here. I think he lives in PV.
He is. I think he's a member of Timuquana too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. There you go. So, I mean, Dustin Johnson was playing great that year, 3rd in tee to green heading in. But you got a lot of guys who are faring pretty well. Shane Lowry's pretty good tee to green heading in. Sergio, Brandon Grace, Kevin Na, Jason Duffner. Like not a lot of surprise. Like this is definitely a golf course where it's going to punish you with sloppy ball striking tee to green stuff. And no surprise, guys were pretty good coming in tee to green. Pretty good here.
Look at that. Look at 3 assholes back to back. Garcia, Grace, and Na.
I mean, there's a lot of assholes back then. You know?
I
mean, Zach Johnson's even on this list. You don't like him.
Scott
Scott Piercy's on this list. You don't like him.
I don't like Scott Piercy at all.
No, you don't. So, funny enough, I mean, a lot of these guys went to live, and now you like him.
I like Duff Daddy.
Yeah. Duffner, this was back before, he started getting the neck.
His wife ruined his life.
Yeah.
His ex-wife.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, not at this point yet.
Yeah. As far as off the tee, I think I want to make this point. Maybe we'll get to it in a little bit, but like if I don't think it's a stretch and definitely not a hot take that if you're not driving it well at this golf course, you pretty much had no shot.
Dead.
Yeah.
Dead.
I mean, you looked at, I went through all the ways that Oakmont's hard. Like if you're not in the rough, you're going to be in one of those bunkers and you don't want to spend a lot of time there, or you're going to be in a ditch. And it's just nightmare fuel at this point. So it's no surprise that most of the guys were ranked pretty highly in strokes gained off the tee heading in. Like Dustin Johnson was 3rd. Scott Piercy was actually pinning it pretty good that week. He was 13th. Shane Lowry had a good combination of length and accuracy coming in. Like Sergio, Brandon Grace, Jason Day, Duffner was, more like combination of length and accuracy. And the guys
you never answered me what happened to Summer Hayes. What happened to that guy?
So Summer Hayes, he just was, I would say he probably was like an Andrew Novak back then. Where just a guy who was a journeyman, he ends up kind of catching fire in 2016. I think he also finished top 10 at Baltusrol.
Yeah, they said he finished 2nd somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, prior. Like he had a good 2016, 2017, and then kind of just faded away at that point.
Faded away.
Okay. Yeah. But I think his kid's actually Preston, and he's pretty good amateur.
Of course his name is Preston. Of course. Yeah.
But so most of the guys are ranking pretty good off the tee. Like they're driving pretty good coming in. The ones that didn't statistically rank pretty well, like Kevin Na, just hit a bunch of fairways. Like say they like a Jim Furyk or Zach Johnson. Daniel Summerhays was kind of the one where it's like, all right, not very good distance numbers, not very good accuracy numbers. Kind of the oddball there. But like you can kind of see like guys drove it pretty good, had a better, more predictive success here. Actually, and a lot of guys who had, fairly decent length. It wasn't elite, not a bunch of bombers, but like obviously you have DJ, like long guy, but a lot of guys who average between like 293, 296, like upper 290s. They're between like 25th and like 60th, 70th. So, it helped to have a little bit of pop, but it wasn't like bomber, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, definitely not. I mean,
yeah.
What's funny is, so I texted when I was rewatching this thing, and the announcers were talking like, oh, they got to carry that 275 bunker. And it's like, that's not even a thing anymore.
No, it isn't, unless you're forced to club down on some of these holes. But yeah,
but none of these guys. DJ is the only true bomb. I guess Day was a bomber back then too. So there's only really two. Was Sergio bombing it back then?
I mean, Sergio hit it pretty far. Like, he averaged 298.8, but it's 26. Like, but he was still a great driver, but I wouldn't say, length, I guess, with Sergio. As far as like if you just look at like pure driving accuracy rates, like it's all over the map as far as like guys who are like hit a lot of fairways and didn't. I think it's a better metric, and mostly I've noticed that good drive percentage is a better predictor of like guys who are in the top 10, like at the end over driving accuracy. And you look at like besides DJ, a lot of guys ranked really highly in good drive percentage, which to me tells me that maybe you don't like hit the fairway, but you don't put yourself in a lot of situations where you're missing like huge, or like you're putting in like bad situations. And there's plenty of ways you can put yourself in a really bad situation at Oakmont.
Yeah, no shit.
So the fact you see a lot of guys like, and the good drive percentage is either it's green and regulation rate for hitting the fairway, or if you miss a fairway, your percentage of hitting the green. So that's what that measures. So that's a better predictor. And so basically, just long story short, really good drivers did pretty well at Oakmont, like at least coming in. But it wasn't like exclusive to like certain guys that didn't have pop. Like you definitely had your guys like Kevin Na or Zach Johnson, Jim Furyk, who
Lowry. Duffner wasn't very long. Like none of those really. I'm telling you, outside of DJ and Jason Day, they were bombers.
Yeah, just a lot of solid, consistent drivers. Like it definitely not like I would say like more like DJ puts on shows, and like these guys are kind of a little more boring.
I miss DJ, by the way. After watching that today, I miss DJ. I miss DJ that gave a shit about golf so much.
Yep, there you go. As far as the other stats, like as far as iron play, like most of these guys usually. Guys who hit their irons pretty well usually do well U.S. Opens. A lot of really good ball strikers in that category coming in. Like DJ was 16th in that category. Sergio Garcia was 5th. Kevin Na was hitting the ball really good with his irons that year. He's 12th. Duffner 15th. Jason Day like 47th. Like this is when the reason why Jason Day became number one golfer in the world is because his irons finally like caught up to him and started hitting him pretty well. He's still hitting pretty good. Lowry was not hitting his irons pretty well coming in, which is surprising, in hindsight. Furyk doesn't have stats, but he probably would be like top 15 in iron stats coming in. So no surprise. A lot of good iron players coming in did pretty well at Oakmont. Around the green, hit or miss. Like you had some guys who were really good scramblers coming in, like Kevin Na or Jason Day or Zach Johnson. And then you have others like Sergio Garcia, ranked 139th in strokes gained off around the green. Coming in. DJ was 108th. Scott Piercy 138. And
can I ask you? So around the green, these guys they're taking putter more than normal, right? Like especially with these false fronts.
No, not necessarily. I mean, the false front, like it severely repels. Like you saw Jason Kokrak pull putter because like he could, and also he's not very good around the greens. Like pulling a wedge. But a lot of these greens like that do like have false fronts, like the ball's rolling way far away where you're probably not doing that. You're probably pulling wedge, but like it's a lot of like bunker shots or like shots out of the rough, like things like that.
Okay.
So I guess my point is that like, at least like as a predictive metric, just looking at someone's strokes gained around the green number, even though it's very difficult and important to do at Oakmont, as we're going to show in the next slide, that you have to scramble very well or else you're not going to do well. As a predictive metric, trying to figure out who might be good at that, is difficult. It's kind of like with Pinehurst last year, where we looked at those leaderboards and we're like, yeah, it's extremely important to get up and down at Pinehurst. Like, it's not a stat that doesn't matter in tournament, but trying to figure out the guys who might be good at that might take a little more investigation than just saying, oh, this guy ranks 32nd in strokes gained around the green because he did good at Cognizant or TBC Craig Ranch. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then putting, it's very much across the board. Like, you had the number one putter in the world, Jason Day, finished in the top 10, but Scott Piercy 140th. So it's kind of a similar example of, this is just a different
So do you think, were the greens as big as they were today, back then?
They weren't as big. I mean, they're so large though, but they weren't as big.
So you think lag putting might have something to do with that?
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. As far as the important putting, actually, we'll get to that right now. So, because people we'll save that. So this is just what they did in tournament. And again, there's no strokes gained metrics, but you kind of get an idea from the rudimentary stuff, like how guys did and what was important. I cannot emphasize enough how fantastic DJ was tee to green and driving.
77% basically in greens and regulation. That's insane.
So the driving distances only measure, it's still only measured like 8 drives. It's one that's like either uphill or downhill. But DJ averaged 317 off the tee compared to a field average of 286. And he hit 64% of his fairways. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That would have been an astronomical stroke gain off the tee performance that week. But you can see, like, most of the guys had in tournament, like, they were some of the longer guys, in the tournament. I mean, you had some shorters, like poor Jim Furyk was averaging 270 off the box. Kevin Na 278, like even Jason Day. So it was a bomber, but he only averaged, at least on the 8 measure drive, I don't know if it's just dumb luck, but they only have him at 282. I did notice, and it was unusual, on number 1, he pulled iron off the tee. And I'm like, why did he pull iron?
And he laid up to that right spot below the bunker.
Yeah, so I'm almost wondering, like, was Day just not, I mean, I forget, but like, was Day just not comfortable with the driver that week? Like, that was
insane, right?
Yeah, that was an odd decision. Everybody pulled driver on that hole. Or at least 3 would to like get it to the top of the hill. He pulled iron. I'm like, you're one of the longest hitters in the world, dude. Like, what are you doing? So I don't know if that, and then I saw the driving distance number. I'm like, was he struggling with his driver? Like, did he just club down? I don't know. But apparently in tournament, he just was not driving well. He averaged 282 out the box and only hit 54% of his fairways. But most guys, like, either you had above average length, or you basically were either field average with your driving accuracy, or you're well above it. And I think it's no surprise that probably the better you drove it in good positions, the more likely you were to hit greens that week. So I would probably say there's definitely a direct correlation to keeping in the fairway, not getting in trouble, to your ability to hit your irons well that week. So for me, like, it really starts when I'm handicapping this. Like, are you a complete donkey or an idiot off the tee, or are you not? And if you're not, I'm willing to entertain you this week, because I just think there's no way you can drive it poorly at Oakmont unless you're Jason Day and just putt the lights out all week and get away with it. Like, I don't want to have that on my betting card, like, and even entertain that. Agreed. So, and you kind of see it with how the tournament kind of progressed based on in-tournament stuff.
Yeah. God damn, what a huge driving advantage. That's insane. Is there a comp lately where somebody has outdriven the field by 31 yards?
I mean, Bryson.
But is he outdriving the average by 31 yards?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, it's
it? Okay.
It's also lit, but like, like you look at like Bryson, like if you go to Data Golf, they see their distance column is like the number of yards you gain on the field. Essentially, it's like yards gained, and it's just like astronomically huge. So or Rory probably is an example of that.
Okay.
Scam Champ probably is an example of that.
Scam Champ.
Yeah. Now, we talked about scrambling, not necessarily, or like around the green stuff, not necessarily being a good predictor, but it was extremely predictive to how you did the tournament. Like the guys were able, like when you missed a green, like were you able to get up and down? Like that's not rocket science. It's just the ability to maybe pick those types of guys is a challenge. And maybe you want to look more towards like how guys handled with severe topography and severe greenside surrounds on really fast greens instead of just looking purely at a number. That like how does your performance in strokes gained around the green captured at Amex is relevant here, you know? So it takes more, takes a little bit maybe more brain power to figure out. Like I think like just noticing a couple of guys here. I remember Chambers Bay had really like severe roll-offs and severe greenside surrounds.
Yeah.
And you see like Dustin Johnson, Shane Lowry, Brandon Grace, you have Jason Day. Like those are really great players. Zach Johnson, I think, did well in that US Open too. Like, you know, they might not be great in that category, but like you saw them do well there. And that kind of translates maybe here. So
yeah, because at least it's similar.
Yeah, as far as like the extreme difficulty of it.
Right.
You know? Right. Yeah. So that might be something to draw upon. Like, don't necessarily maybe look at like how like a guy's really good in that category coming in. You gotta, I think, expand how like, okay, where have they been good more?
Right.
Like that kind of helped us last year with Pinehurst, where like Finau, I think, was kind of struggling a little bit around the green, or Hideki too, like, and or not Hideki, but I think I remember Finau was kind of struggling coming in, but he was good at a lot of these other difficult places where like, okay, he could probably do well here given the surrounds. And he actually did great. Yeah, so awesome, yeah, that's something like that. Putting, like this is also something too, like, you know, like again, like it's hard to like kind of gauge stuff because like the stats they keep is like putts per green in regulation, but yeah, I mean, not a lot of guys are making a ton of putts. Like you see, like, you know, Kevin Na and Jason Day have like big putting weeks, but like Jason Duffner was a complete stooge on the greens and he still finished top 10. Dustin Johnson didn't putt all that great on the week. So, and then the concept of the lag putting. So essentially like 3-putt avoidance, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I mean, the field average was everybody averaged 1 3-putt around. Even DJ averaged 1 3-putt around. That was, you know, about average. Duffner averaged 2 around. So it's kind of all over the board. So like I understand in theory, yes, you got to be a really good lag putter, but again, consider these are extremely difficult greens, and guys are able to overcome kind of mediocre putting weeks compared to the field with just excellent tee to green work, just by hitting more greens than everybody or getting up and down better. So I understand conceptually like that point. Yeah, but that didn't really play out all that well at Oakmont if you just kind of lean into that. So be careful with that, I guess I would say.
Which is true, because I mean, if you think about it, like, so I would be like, all right, so there's 8,500 square foot greens on, or whatever it is, on so you're gonna want somebody who can avoid 3 putts, but yeah, I mean, it legitimately did not make a huge difference at all.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen, I think, at this place. So like tee to green work trumped everything.
And then, like I said, there was how many 2 and 3 footers did people miss?
A lot.
So even if you lagged it up, you're still going to put the fucking 3-footer in.
Yep, a lot. Now we're going to talk about what Gil Hanse changed. And there's 5 big things he changed. Okay. I'll give you some examples of what they did. So the first was the green expansion. You know, and like I referenced, basically he took, you know, a lot of these green sides, you know, they kind of like shrink in. A lot of these classic golf courses over time, they kind of shrink in with mownlets, you know, sand caps, all that stuff. So this is the first hole here. You see how the greens kind of like cave in a little bit in the opening there. Well, what he ended up doing was he kind of just he expanded the edges here, and now it looks like just a runway in. So this is the first hole to where if you're on the left side or right side, you can basically get the ball into the green. It opens up some more pin positions too. So that's an example where he opened the mouth of the green on the edge to open it up there. That's
on 1. Okay.
Yeah, that's on 1. This is the third hole. Again, you can see kind of the opening of the green kind of pinch in a little bit. This green looks a lot bigger than what it is, because remember the Bubba slide I showed you where he was back here? So they actually, and this is kind of disappointing. The back of the
Fluff
green
it
is
up.
now all rough. It's no longer
Yeah,
collection
they fluffed
area.
it up. That's bullshit.
Yeah, so that stinks. But what they end up doing was, and it's mostly to the right side of this green here. You see how this kind of pinches in? Now they expanded it to where with this fall, it's now a much bigger false front to where before, if your ball was on the right here, it might get caught up up here. Now it's just going to roll all the way back down. So that's one of the areas where they actually expanded the putting surface, but made it more difficult, especially if you miss on the right side of the green here. So they also did some lengthening too. And this is what I am doing was I summarized the 2016 yardage and the 2025 yardage from the US Open site. And then I just highlighted the areas in which they lengthened it. So they put a new tee box on 3 that adds about 35 yards to the hole. They added a new tee box on 5 that adds about 25 yards. On 11, they have a tee box that adds 21 yards. I highlighted in yellow here.
Interesting.
12, the par 5. It played as long as 667. There's a back tee that they theoretically can use. It doesn't seem like they're going to use that this year. Seems like they're just going to stick to 632. So that I think is going to be shortened a little bit, but they could change their mind. So, but that's one area that I think they shortened it. On 14, there's another back tee box that lengthened the hole about like 20 yards. And then on 18, it plays about 18 yards longer. So all in all, I think it's going to play about 120 yards longer, even though they added 250 yards of length. I could be wrong. I mean, I just took literally what was on the US Open website scorecards for each year, and that's what I did.
So can I ask you just so for some of the longer drivers like Rory and Bryson, are they going to take driver on like what, like on 14? Like are they on these shorter? No, you don't think so?
No, I mean, I don't want to go back to that slide, but with all the trouble up the fairway, it's also very uphill and it bottlenecks around like 280. Like, and you can't bounce the ball up to the green. Like, it would take like literally the perfect drive. And even if it hits like up there, like
it's not worth it.
Let's put it this way. I didn't see anybody hit driver on 14 when I rewatched. And I do not anticipate that being the same this year. Also on 11, same thing. The fairway runs out about 280 and there's just a huge expanse of rough and ditches. Like you're not hitting driver there. Everybody pulled iron. On number 5, again, like that's one where the fairway runs out. You can't hit driver there. So that's one where it's less than driver. Basically, on this list here, most guys, like on a singular hole, there wasn't really a lot of strategy as far as like this guy pulled iron, this guy pulled driver. Like you saw it on number 2, and I pointed that out earlier, where like some guys laid short of the bunkers, some guys tried to carry the bunker, some guys tried to drive the green. Like that's one where there is a difference. But overall, though, it's pretty homogenous strategy for everybody. Like most guys hit driver on most holes, or if it was less than driver, everyone had to do it. So I have about like, it's driver heavy though. Like I say guys are going to hit like 9 to 10 drivers on the non-par 3s this week, like 4 to 5 on the other ones. And, and basically your choice would be like on number 2. That kind of is where that dictates. Where that would be. As far as proximity buckets, I mean, you can see it on the side here. Just one note on that. So number 4 and number 12, the really long par 5s, I saw different strategies that year where some guys just chose to make it a 3-shot hole where either they were out of position off the tee or even if they're in the fairway, there's a lot of trouble up near the green. And if you don't feel comfortable getting the ball up there, they just laid up to a wedge shot. Or you saw some guys try to make it a 2-shot hole. So I split the baby on that as far as proximities. I said, okay, let's assume on one of them, maybe they make a 3-shot hole if they're forced to. On the other one, they could go for it in 2, maybe a longer approach shot there. I would say of the 2, number 12 is probably the one most guys would go for because it plays about 60 feet downhill. So it plays more like 600. Especially so if you get a really big drive out there, you could theoretically get there in 2. So some of the proximity buckets, again, like don't look at necessarily the numbers per se. And this is what I estimate based on I watched the entire coverage in 2016, and they showed the yardage on everybody. So I took everybody that they showed their yardage going into every green. And back then, like, there's a lot more shorter irons at this golf course than you might think at a typical US Open. Like, we usually think of like a big test of like long irons. Like last year at Pinehurst, a lot of shots over 175. Wingfoot, a lot of shots over 175. Well, back in 2016, about more than 50% of your shots were from under 150 yards.
Yeah.
And one of those holes is number one, to where even though, and this is kind of like the links quality of this golf course, is that even though like it's maybe like 160 to the middle of the green or to the pin, with how severely sloped number one is downhill, you have to bounce the ball to the green and let it roll up. Because if you try and fly it to that number, it's going to go all the way to the back and then you're screwed.
Dead. So
guys are pulling like wedges or 9 irons, like they're trying to lay back short. So that's really your proximity number at that point. Mm-hmm. So when you adjust for stuff like that, there's a lot more shorter irons at this golf course than you would think. And also some really sharp par fours. So, there's, I think 3 or 4 that are under 400 yards where it's a forced layup and it's a short iron to the green. Or if you're out of position on a par 5, you may get a 3-shot hole. That's a short iron at that point. So that takes away from some of the longer buckets. But there's still a fair amount of shots between like 175 and 200 that you would expect from a US Open. So a fair amount of shots over 225, especially the number 8 that everybody likes to talk about, the long par 3 that we'll talk about a little bit. So translating though with some of the lengthening, you definitely do see some stuff shifted out between like 150 and 175. But still, there's still a high volume of shots from under 150. About 44% of your shots are going to come, I think, from under 150 yards.
Huge amount.
Yeah, like that's different from some US Open venues we come to sometimes. So
most times I would think.
Yeah, most times. So, but there's still a fair amount from over 175. It's a wide.
You're still gonna have it in the bag.
Yeah, it's a big diversity of like types of approach shots. You got to have a lot of short irons and be good at those, and some longer irons as well. So that's about the split I think that's going to come out to this year. Okay. Number 3. So one of the things I liked about it, and I'll backtrack for a second. What was frustrating about trying to prepare for this was usually I go to Google Earth and I can see the before and after pictures. I do measurements. Well, the fuckers at Google have not updated those maps. And it literally
sons of bitches.
Yeah, it's their most updated satellite picture is the mid-construction of it. So I can kind of see on the front 9 some bunkers being built, but the back 9 they didn't have anything updated. But the drone flyovers, I was able to actually look. I found a old drone flyover narrated by Bob Ford. I think that's his name, who's the old superintendent of Oakmont. Like Golf Digest did it, and it had the old bunkers and everything. And they had the most recent USGA flyover, and I actually compared the two as far as like the differences. So this is what I use for the bunker renovation and repositioning. What I noticed about it is that it seemed like most of the bunkers, and like Gil Hanse did a good job, and I think he did a good job with the decree of the members of maintaining the difficulty. But he didn't like go about like changing a lot of stuff. Like it's a lot of just cosmetic changes to kind of update it to modern times, the modern game. But for the most part, though, like there's some reshaping of bunkers, a couple of new bunkers in certain areas. The green expansion. But he did a really good job making subtle changes to maintain the true characteristics of Oakmont. So this is an example here. So this is on number 1. You have a couple deep fairway bunkers on the right here. You have a row of bunkers that are pretty narrow with steep faces.
Seems like they line the entire fairway.
Yeah, but at the after picture, though, I mean, it looks fairly similar. They're all about in the same position. They're just a little different shape. Like now they're a little wider over on the left here with the steep faces. He removed one a little shorter because it's just not in play anymore for these pros. But he just gave him some little touch-ups. So he also had, I think, a couple more bunkers, I think, down here as well, just to accommodate for length. But so that was one change. Like that's most of the changes of the bunkers they made.
Okay.
At least the fairway ones on the golf course. Here's number 3 here. These are the famous church pew bunkers over on the left, and you see 5 fairway bunkers over on the right. This is the hole that slopes pretty hard from right to left. There's a couple changes he made here. One, they added a couple more church pews to the end of the bunkers here. They also changed the positioning of some of the bunkers too, and I like this, to where, when you come to like some golf courses, maybe I'll go back to this slide. So if you miss like way right, sometimes you might be in trampled down rough. It's actually a little more beneficial to, miss some of these bunkers. And basically, the farther you hit it offline, the more you take out of it. Well, now these bunkers are kind of more in play, where the farther you hit it offline, you're still bringing them into play because they're angled now away from the fairway. So I kind of like that. They also looked like they pushed some of the bunkers a little farther up. So now it's just like, they maintain the penal nature of some of these bunkers, but they added some improvements to accommodate the modern game, to where there's still more in play, and the more offline you are, you're still bringing them in. So I like that change that they made to some of these bunkers here. This is number 8. This is the much maligned, we hate long par 3s.
But so I think Vic Hovland said it like 2 weeks ago. So anything longer than this, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like this one's a little different.
Well, so I think the point is it's harder to be interesting with it, because there's only so much you can do with the greens to accommodate a long approach shot in, like how undulating it is, or the topography, or hole locations.
Yeah.
So to where like you can't make it and this was actually a problem with the green at Royal Troon number 17, to where it was such a long approach shot, but the green was so crazy that guys just stood no chance on it. So, and sometimes you see that in longer par 3s. So I think that's like, like in most shorter par 3s, like you think like 12 at Augusta or the postage stamp, like those are usually the more iconic ones, and you don't really think of the long par 3s. I will say though, the guys made the same complaints in 2016 about number 8, including notable Karen, Zach Johnson, complaining he had to use driver on this hole. Like it played to an average of 3.3. Like I think it was like the 11th hardest hole in the golf course. It's not that big of a deal.
So much ado about nothing.
Pretty much. But there was some changes they made to the bunker here. Here you have a large expansive bunker all the way down the left here, and 3 bunkers short of the green here. But the strategy is you try to bounce the ball up to the green. It's pretty wide opening here. Now they ended up expanding the green more into the fairway here. It's not going to be in play for these guys. It's 250 to carry. Like it's not play, but there's now this cross bunker that definitely can come into play if you flare it out a little right. And then like you might be up against the lip here. Like that can create some issues, to where it's now more of a carry. And even if you carry it, you might run to this bunker over on, the front or front right here. So that's an example of how they changed some of the greenside bunkers too, to kind of add a little more of a challenge to some of the shots these guys got to hit this year. So
like it.
Here's an example.
I think more golf courses. I think more golf courses need to do what they did, as far as expanding those bunkers way out to the right. Because you're right, like these guys who miss by 30 yards off the fairway are always way better off than a guy who misses 3 feet, and it's stupid.
Yeah, and with how they did it on number 3, like the farther you hit offline, like you might not be able to carry all those bunkers.
Yeah, I love it.
So I like that. So this is number 7. And this was the most notable fairway expansion that they did. They didn't do it to all the holes, but this was the most notable one. And I was listening to the Friday podcast with Gil Hanse when I was preparing for this. And Gil made mention of everybody thinks about Pinehurst as very penal. But when looking at some of the old pictures, there's certainly some holes where there was strategy involved, to where, you had to hit on a certain side of the fairway. There was, a reward for doing that, or punishment for doing that, or you take on more risk in doing things. And they saw an opportunity to bring that back in number 7. Now, this was the before photo, and this is just an extremely tough driving hole, very narrow. You have 3 very penal bunkers over on the right with all the rough here. Same thing over the left, just nowhere to miss it. You just got to hit a dead straight shot.
Yep.
But now what they did is they added some options off the tee. They added a generous right bailout with a wide fairway over there that runs out about like 305, where shorter hitters can comfortably kind of put it. But the angle to the green, depending where the pin is not quite as good. You got to carry this bunker over on the front right here. If the green, there are some pin positions where you could, if hit it from the right here, use kind of a backstop on some of the greens on the green up here to funnel the ball back. So that is an advantage of hitting it right. But like there is a generous bailout right on this hole now. And they shifted the fairway in a little bit. And now if you want to maybe get a better angle to the green, or if you're a longer hitter, now you can carry this bunker here. But the farther you are offline, the more rough and carry you have to do it. And there's 4 very penal bunkers still if you miss way left. So there's a reward to shorten up the hole if you have the length to hit a really good drive and put in the middle of the fairway here for a great angle. Or if you are somebody who wants to take that on, you miss way left, like you're pretty much dead in these bunkers over here. Or you could play very safe and play it out to the right, might not have a great of an angle. So that's an example where they brought some strategy and maybe different varieties into this hole. And one of the things Gil Hanse also did, and I think he learned this lesson from Wingfoot, was, you have guys like Rory and Bryson who, even though all these guys hit it a mile, they just hit it miles past
a mile and a half. Yeah, exactly.
So he's started to incorporate more holes to where he has to keep in mind of like, okay, I can't just punish those 2. And like when I'm building a hole, right. But I also have to keep it in mind to not punish everybody else too. So there's more of a variety on this golf course to where there's some holes where Bryson and Rory just have an advantage. And there's other holes to where there's a governor and it's rewarding or maybe favoring some of the shorter guys who can't do what they do. So, but this is an example of a hole where kind of accommodates both worlds to where, if you're Rory or Bryson, you can carry this bunker over here and get a good angle, but there's definitely some punishment if you miss too far left, or you have a generous bailout for some of the guys who can't, pretty wide fairway, but it makes their approach out a little more difficult.
Okay.
So that's an example of some of the expansion of the fairways they've done. And then the expansion of ditches. They brought some more ditches into play on certain holes. This is number 10, downhill par 4 here. So you can see the ditch kind of stops once it hits the fairway here, and you got another ditch that's flanking number 9 over on the right here. Mm-hmm. Now the ditch cuts across the fairway, and they actually
how far is that?
So this is probably about like 340. But the thing is, this is 45 feet downhill. So guys in 2016 were actually pulling 3-wood on this hole because if you just hit 3-wood, it would just roll forever.
Yeah.
But now you could theoretically roll the ball into the ditch if you push it a little too far. So that's something to kind of keep in mind on this hole. So that I think was a good improvement they made to bring the ditch more into play by having it kind of cut off the fairway there. So those are the big examples of how Gil Hanse has changed his golf course to kind of improve it for the modern game. So any questions before we move on to the next topic?
No, I mean, this is thorough. I love it.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about something that we always talk about ever since 2020, where we're all hunkered in with COVID.
Yep.
And Bryson basically changed the way we think about US Opens and just, I think, like PGAs as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this another Wingfoot 2.0? And that's always something we need to keep in mind when bringing out these golf courses, that there's certain things that Bryson or Rory can just do that these guys can't. And at the end of the day, like we saw at Pinehurst last year, where there are certain things that the golf course offers that only they really can do. And in Wingfoot, which is something that Bryson mentioned specifically in his video, about, he's going to take a similar strategy where he's just going to hit driver and then he'll just figure it out. Basically, that's the Wingfoot strategy.
So talk to me and anybody else who hasn't seen that video. What is this video? Other than I saw somebody in Discord, like he went over and dropped the ball in the rough like 50 yards off the tee box where nobody's going to be.
So one thing to keep in mind was this was filmed May 31st, and it was extremely cold that day. It was. Oh, yeah. I remember it being like my parents came back from Florida, and they're like, "What the heck?"
Did we have Matty Wolf?
No, we were dead wrong about Wingfoot, where we saw Bryson's comments, and they were just all week we were getting gassed up with this is such thick penal rough, and if you're hitting balls out of the rough, you have no shot of keeping on the green. So we loaded up on accurate guys and like those types, and we got our asses kicked that week. Right. And that I remember us doing the recap show. We're like, sorry, this is a fundamental shift in how we need to think about golf course for a handicap perspective. Yeah. So obviously when Bryson goes and does his video, which was in cold conditions, so the golf course played a lot longer. The turf was very soft. The greens were running only about like 10.5 of the centimeter. So like when Bryson missed a green and chipped back on, like if he was out of position, the ball wouldn't roll out very far. Okay. So like it was good to see Bryson play it. And the one thing I kind of wished was Bryson drove it exceptionally well that day. Yeah. Like everything was a tight little draw on a rail right in the middle of the fairway. Like there's only a couple tee shots where he kind of pushed it a little bit. But like we mentioned, and we saw it with like how DJ did it. Like DJ drove it incredible on the week. If Bryson puts together 4 days of how he drove it, it's a wrap. He's gonna be extremely difficult to beat that week. But like that doesn't mean that only Bryson can do these things like he did at Wingfoot. So I think it would kind of help if we actually went back and looked at why did Wingfoot happen. Okay. And this is, I think, a good example of it. So a big difference between Wingfoot and Oakmont is that Wingfoot did not have as nearly as severe a topography as Oakmont. It's a much flatter piece of property. So there also just isn't as much trouble off the tee as we see at Oakmont. Like, I showed you a bunch of holes with like a bunch of like numerous bunkers and ditches, and like both have characteristics of rough, but for the most part, like you basically just had to avoid a couple bunkers. That was really about it. Now, the reason why Bryson had such an advantage on the week was 2 things. Number one, the turf conditions were so firm that week that a straight shot just could not hold the fairway, and it was not rewarded. And and that was unfair that week, to where so where the fairways like kind of dog, it's about like 290 here. You hit a straight shot, it's just going to keep rolling, and it just rolled into that rough there, and you have a long approach out in the green. Well, Bryson just figured out, okay, I have more length than everybody, so I can just take lines off the tee that nobody can. I can carry this bunker. And because these greens are pretty wide open here, I'm really the only one capable of muscling the ball out of the rough and bouncing up to the green. Whereas if you were other guys who were much farther back and spending a lot more time in the rough, you didn't have that advantage. You had to hack out. Yeah. And you saw that in number 4 and number 5 here. These are 2 examples where Bryson could take crazy lines off the tee and buy up more of the hole. And you have other guys who couldn't do that. They had to play it straight, and they would either run the ball into the bunker or into the rough because you just could not hold fairways. And a lot of holes are like that. They're very dog-legged where a straight shot wasn't rewarded. So that's why Wingfoot happened. And that's why the drive accuracy rate that week was 39.7%. Stupidly low.
Crazy low.
Stupidly low.
Crazy low.
So there's things you need to consider. 1, are the fairways unfair to hit at Oakmont? 2, can you just hit driver and then just figure it out from there?
I don't think so.
And 3, can you bounce the ball up to the green? So let's talk about the fairways. So these are just the overhead shots, and these aren't capturing some of the topography to where balls could land at a certain place in the fairway and just roll to an undesirable location. That theoretically could happen here if the fairways are running very firm, like kind of like you see it, like, I don't know, like Kapaloo or something, to where like it just cuts the wrong side of the slope and just gravity takes over and just runs it a certain place. You saw that a little bit in 2007. That's the only US Open that played extremely firm, that wasn't dumped with a lot of rain. And the driving accuracy rate that week was like 52%. In 2016, it was 57%, which is low, but that's not crazy low. Like that's not sub 40% like you see at
No, I mean that's such an outlier.
Yeah, that's a huge outlier. And for the most part, like, especially if the fairways are going to be a little softer and slower and receptive, because they've gotten 2 inches of rain since Thursday. It's going to rain more tomorrow. It's going to rain during the tournament, apparently. Like, you're not going to see these fiery, firm, fast fairways. Like, to where for the most part, if you hit a straight shot, like a good, like, it will get rewarded. Like, it should
you'll be fine.
Stay in the fairway. And you see that a lot. Like, the only one that really kind of, you got to shape the ball more would be like on number 4, but you're so far back there that it doesn't matter. But like, otherwise, though, everything is pretty much right out in front of you. And you really see it over on the other side of the property, where like number 1, straight out ahead of you. Number 9, straight out ahead of you.
Like, it's funny, after just watching it doesn't seem like all these shots are so straight, but I mean, on the back 9, everything's pretty much straight out in front of you.
Yeah. Now there's land movement that would, if it was firmer and faster, like then like it might be very difficult to hold fairways, where then at that point, okay, just hit as far as you can. But, and you saw it in 2016, like there were some guys that hit mid 60% fairways that week, and we're going to get similar turf conditions this week. So I would not call it unfair to hit fairways here. So that would be something that Bryson just wouldn't have a natural advantage over everybody, to where no one's hitting fairways, just hit as far as you can, doesn't matter. Okay. Second is, can you just figure it out? Like, just hit in the rough or hit it offline and just, I'll worry about it later. So this is an example of the second and Wingfoot, a long par 4, where really the only trouble that you're encountering off the tee is just rough, this bunker that if you land in it, you might not have lip issues. Maybe some tree trouble, a lot less things to worry about than, for example, number 7. Let's bring that here, where you have a lot of bunkers with pretty steep faces, where you might have to worry about lip issues over on the left here. Obviously, you got your rough. Same thing over here. Like, there's more going on off the tee if you do miss it than there would be a Wingfoot. Or like this is number 15. You got the Church Pew bunkers over on the left here that Sergio had an asteroid hit and just impacted the earth. You got the ditches over on the right here. You got another fairway bunker with a steep lip. So I wouldn't say it's just as easy as like, I'm just going to hit driver and I don't really care where it goes, and I'll just worry about it. Like, there's definitely more going on to, if you do that and you have a bad driving day, like, you can't just hack out of the rough and bounce the ball up and just not worry about it because you're just longer than everybody. So
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. And the third thing is, can you bounce the ball to the green? There definitely are holes where Bryson can definitely do that. Like number 1, wide opening, he could get in there. There's problems with that, though. And I think this is also where Gil Hanse might have learned a lesson from Wingfoot. And Andy Johnson, the Friday, mentioned this, to where at Wingfoot, utilizing that strategy, it seemed like balls kind of funneled back towards the middle. Like if you try bouncing the ball up, and it's not necessarily that way here. So like,
no, they either fall off the front or roll off the back.
Yeah. So this one, like once the ball, like if you don't have very good control of the ball, like out of the rough here, and you bounce it up, it can run all the way through. Like just gravity takes over that point. Or this is number 10, to where, sure, like let's say you miss the fairway, you can bounce it up. Well, everything's just going to run way left that point, where just you can't have as much control over it. So that, but you still theoretically can. There is those holes where you can bounce the ball up to the green like you could. But there's still plenty of holes where you can't do that. This is number 3, where the steep false front over here, where it's very extremely difficult, especially if the fairways are not going to be very firm. It's very difficult to bounce the ball up to the green here and get up the hill. Number 9, that's not a very wide opening. Again, it's uphill. Not as easy to bounce the ball just up to the green. Or 18 here. This falls off about 8 feet up the front here. So, there are ways for him where somebody could do that. But I don't think this is a golf course that is blatantly unfair to where somebody just can't separate themselves because they just hit the farthest, because they can just do things that the rest of the field can't. And all that matters is just hitting it far. I think there's definitely a lot of examples here with more going on off the fairways, a little bit more of a challenge to just simply bouncing the ball up to the green. And I don't think the fairways are unfair to hit if you just are having a good driving week.
I agree.
So, all right. So overall conclusions. Let's turn to you. I've done a lot of talking. What do you think?
Shit, man. I mean, there's a lot to take in, right? So I think I agree with you. I don't think it's going to play like Wingfoot, but are we going to fall in the same trap that we fell into at Wingfoot? Like, what guys can take that? Like, so we didn't talk about Rory at all. But I think I might have been right. I think he might be checked out. So who does that leave? It leaves Scottie and Bryson. Who could battle Scottie and Bryson?
Well, why don't we play this game?
Oh, let's go.
We brought it back, baby.
Yes, I'm excited because I thought you were gonna wait for Tuesday night for this. So now
No, we're at an hour and a half. But you know what? Let's keep rolling.
Yeah, who cares? Okay. Listen,
keep rolling.
Anybody who listens to the show or has listened to the show for a long time knows that we go long on majors and we go long on most shows. You know why? Because it's fun and we give a lot of good information. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and listen, I couldn't leave you hanging. I couldn't just talk about the golf course for an hour and a half without giving you your favorite game, the elimination.
It's my favorite game. It's my favorite.
I want
game.
to play.
And for all you young people, this is Saw. And before Saw had 15 versions of it. The first one that came out was like in the zeitgeist. Everybody fucking watched it. Everybody saw it. Everybody talked about it. It was before everybody had 9,000 different things to watch.
All right, so. For anyone who hasn't watched the show before, hasn't seen this, take this semi seriously, okay? Like there's some
very serious. This thing is hit how many fucking times?
Fair amount, especially with the U.S. Open too, because it just seemed like the best player just ends up winning at the end of the day. Yeah. So a lot of these trends, like stats, kind of favor that. But this, I think, is a good exercise to just look at just the state of golf right now, and just who's playing well and who isn't, and things that past winners have done coming in that, and maybe this is also an opportunity to maybe show some weaknesses for some guys that I want to bet. So like nothing's really all that groundbreaking. This one is also not as sticky with the stats as like the Masters is, or like PGA even, but there's a fair sample size. I got going back 17 US Opens.
Okay.
All right. So, and it's pretty simple stuff. So,
okay.
All right, so all of them. Like, look, you can't really figure it out at a U.S. Open sometimes. If you're not playing very well, especially at Oakmont. I don't think if you're just gonna walk in here and just magically fix it like Colin did at Royal St. George's. So
the fakest Open win of all time.
Yeah. So every single winner of the last 17 had a top 10 in one of their last 5 starts. Obviously, Live complicates all of this.
Yes.
Let's say top 5. Okay.
Fine.
Like, can you not, if you're not even finishing like top 5, like in one of your last 5 starts on Live, like, come on. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. What are we doing?
Like, did you look at the leaderboard today at Graham McDowell, Anirban Lahiri, and Phil, blah, blah, like, come on, guys.
I know.
So here's a list of guys who have not finished inside the top 10 in the last 5 starts. Colin Morikawa.
Didn't Victor win in his last 5 starts?
No, it's outside of his top 5. That was before the Masters. So Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, Hideki is not playing good coming in. Tony Finau, Minwoo Lee, Sung Jae. Like, by the way, I didn't use everybody. I used DFS line pricing, and then like I kind of just like after
We're
7,000.
fine. Yeah,
I was like,
we're fine.
I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, Brian
Yeah, we're
Harmon's
good.
not winning. Okay. I'm not going to drill down all the stats. Denny McCarthy, God love him, is probably not winning this week.
I think I saw Denny in the Discord earlier today before I jumped on the show.
Yeah, I don't, not my
Fuck
tempo.
out. Denny McCarthy is not winning the fucking US.
Yeah. But like Sungjae, Wyndham Clark, Justin Rose, Tom Kim, Dustin Johnson. Actually, these guys have not been playing well heading in. No. And by the criteria, they win. Now, is there anybody on this list you would make an exception for?
Maybe Vic.
Okay. I would make an exception for Colin for a couple reasons. I know you're going to squint. I know you're going to do that. So first, there are a lot of, it's been widely talked about our Discord, and you can see it just with the list of winners and guys who've done very well. Guys who hit a lot of fades here generally do pretty well at Oakmont. A lot of holes set up pretty well for a fade. A lot of pin positions set up pretty well for a fade. I mean, obviously Dustin Johnson, famous quote of, what do you got to do to hit a fade? Make sure it fades. True savant, that one. Angel Cabrera, notorious fader of the golf ball. Shane Lowry hits a lot of fades. Like a lot of guys who hit a lot of fades, like generally hit the ball left or right, do very well here. So
yeah,
Colin,
I just don't know.
I
just don't know if I could go into that trap again. Like I started getting on board again with Colin, and then the last two starts completely fucking gutless because that's who he is. He's a gutless fucking loser.
Let's talk about it though. Why did he turn gutless in the tournaments?
Because he thinks he's a golfer. and there's people. He's a COVID golfer once again.
Okay.
That theory that I had run out is 100% correct. He hasn't done shit since COVID.
I wouldn't say that. All right, so let's go back to Truist Philly Cricket Club.
Yeah.
Opening round 63.
Yep.
Melts on Saturday because the wind kicked up.
I know.
Hit it awful. Terrible on Sunday.
Because he's a TrackMan golfer.
Memorial, big chalky golfer, right? Gets off to a good start. I think he's had opening 65?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I was motherfucking myself for taking Decky over him.
Yeah, didn't have a great like second half of Friday, but he started off pretty well. Saturday though, what happened? What happened on Saturday?
Same.
Got windy and he sucked.
Yeah,
I think we're back to house cat Colin, but I'm looking at the forecast. Not a lot of wind.
And it's gonna be warm. And we're gonna get. So we should actually touch on that at the end of this game. Touch on the weather. All right, fine, whatever. I don't care. I'm not betting fucking Colin Morikawa. What's his number? 18. He hasn't won in fucking
he's dripped
900 years.
I saw a 28, and I bet he might drift to like 30. Because I think people are gonna be like bomber. And he's not playing all that.
He is somebody who I've thought about.
Yeah.
And I've even thought about with the one and done. And it's like, do I really want to stick my dick into the mousetrap again? I'm not quite sure.
I'm tempted because I think a lot of his problems have been weather related, and we might not get that.
Mental, man. It's mental.
I know there is. I got to overcome that too. But like, I can definitely draw a direct correlation to you suck this particular day because the wind got over 20 miles per hour, and you start out great.
I know. I mean, there's a reason we target him when there's fucking wind up. So
yeah, exactly. It's over round score city on him. But anyway, that's the only one I would consider. Everybody else hit like. I like the idea of Hideki here. He's been driving it, just not good enough for me. Brooks he's dead. I'm sorry.
Dead.
He's cooked. Dead. He's been bad. Yeah, I don't see anybody else on this list I would think about.
Nope.
All right. 16 of the last 17 winners have shown they at least won in the last 2 years.
Bye-bye, Shane.
Yeah. I want to say this, by the way. I'm sorry for everybody who had Sam Burns in the Discord. But if he won today, I would have had to redo a lot of this stuff in this game. So I am extremely happy that he choked it away because that would have added a lot more late work to me with an hour left. And I had already worked very hard on this. So I am very glad that he did not get the win. And yes, these are by the way, quote unquote, individual wins.
No, we don't count the Zurich here.
No, because Shane Lowry not only won the Zurich, Rory carried his fat ass the entire way. So we don't count that. But no, Patrick Cantlay has not won the last 2 years. Jordan
Berger.
Spieth.
Why is Daniel Berger even on this list? Daniel Berger, like I've told you, is a pyramid scheme by the stat nerds who is actually not good at golf.
Hey, listen, Berger hits a lot of fades though.
Yeah, sure does. Yep. Who
Yeah.
cares? He fucking stinks.
So Chairman Dave, by the way, the guy who was not the winner, do you know who didn't have a win in the last 2 years and then won?
Who?
Gary Woodland, Pebble Beach.
Oh, Gary. So,
yeah.
I remember that. I remember that Father's Day really well, actually. We were going through some things, and so it was nice for me and my wife to go out because it was her birthday, and we were at Plussers, actually, right outside of Sawgrass, where anybody who came down, Idoni came down, a bunch of guys came down, but we watched it there, and I was super happy for fucking Gary. Super happy for Gary.
So here's the thing about Gary. Gary was hitting it really good coming in. He hadn't won, but he top 10 at Bethpage earlier that year. And then he also got in the mix of Bellerive the year before. Like that was like the first time I can remember Gary like actually kind of in the mix in the weekend was at Bellerive.
Okay.
And he ended up getting that really bad break in the bunker where
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, he was leading and then he splashed, he went bunker to bunker, but the guy didn't rake it.
Nope.
Awful luck. Awful. So, but he got in the mix though. So, you know, that was kind of like telltale signs like, okay, like you're starting to elevate your game a little bit to where now you're kind of figuring out what you got to do in a major championship.
I think I got a future on Gary. I think I threw fucking like $50 on him at like 150 to 1 or something like that. Right. Yep. What was this Germany came in second at to Minwoo?
Memorial Park.
Yep. Yeah. I think I bet it that weekend. Yep.
There you go. Okay. All right. 15 of the last 17 winners made the cut in the last major they played. So, yeah, and now we're like going relatively recent.
Yeah.
To where, you know, it's PGA was about a month ago. So let's just look at guys who didn't make the cut at the PGA at Quail Hollow last month. Patrick Reed, rest in peace.
I love you have a whole slide just for his face.
Yeah, well now we're getting into like I think we got like maybe 20 guys left. Okay. So now we can actually like spotlight these guys at this point. But Patrick Reed, I was so high on him at Quail and he sucked.
I know you were, buddy. I know. So was everybody else.
Cam Smith, rest in peace.
Yeah, he's like, anyway, you can't spray it off the tee.
Literally, like I want nothing to do. Actually, hold on.
Nothing.
Before I do that, we got to go back to this slide. I forgot to make a point. Is there anybody on this list that has not won last 2 years that you make an exception for?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. I am weird. This is a sound clip, Cam. Ready? Clip this. I am weirdly attracted to Jordan Spieth this week.
Oh.
Spieth is driving it.
That piques my interest.
Extremely well.
Okay.
Like we talk about leaky canoe with him, and his iron play has been a mess.
Shaky at best.
Yeah. But the one thing he's been doing extremely well all year is driving it.
And he scrambles his balls off.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about the uneven lies, I don't think it's as severe as Augusta or like Kapalua, but he's won both places.
Okay. I hate you for doing this to me.
Just comes off a good finish at Memorial where he kind of had the magic beans.
He did, but that's what he has. Like, so I don't like that. Everybody's like, well, he had magic beans. That's what he does. He's done this for fucking 15 years at this point.
Yeah, and if I'm under the theory, like everything starts with how well you drive it, and that basically dictates you the rest of the rest of the way. Like. And his number, like I've seen a 70 on Spieth.
No, I hate you.
Like I think the worst number he has like 50, but I've seen a 70.
Let's see what the criminal mafia family, the Seminole tribe, is offering.
Like it's and I'm going back and forth. I'm like, man, Spieth is such a nutcase, and like, how would I even want that here? But man, he is driving it so good. Like it's piquing my interest.
Son of a bitch.
I mean, I think Corey Connors can play. I think Corey Connors can play well here, but
stop it. He's not fucking winning.
No, like that's probably position.
Oh my god. Only. What do you think the Seminole tribe has him at?
Spieth or Corey Connors?
Spieth. Connors, I don't give a shit.
Probably like 35, 40.
50.
Okay. All right. So that's the worst number I can get.
I hate them. I
know.
Hate the Seminoles so much.
Yeah. Probably Connor's positional would intrigue me. Like Lowry positional obviously intrigues me. This would be stupid if Cantlay won this, but he plays I think boring golf is going to play really well this week, and he can play boring golf. But
I will not allow you to go back to Cantlay.
But I looked at his stats.
I've moved you out of the Ronald McDonald house. You are in your own safe space now. We got you set up with your own apartment. We have police driving by every once in a while just to make sure he's not sitting outside ready to whoop your ass again. No more Cantlay. Let it go.
No, I don't think Cantlay's driving it as good as what I want either. Like he's kind of like some weeks he's driving like really far, but like kind of spraying a little bit. Other weeks in a lot of fairways. Like he's kind of like in that middle. Like his total driving looks good, but like he's like middle of the road length and like or middle of the road accuracy. Like I don't know if I want that.
He stinks. All
right. So probably Lowry Connors for like positional. Spieth though has my interest.
I hate the fact that you brought that up to me.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to this. So Cam Smith, I wanted to put this like moment for you because I know you love him.
So good. I did. I love it. I love him so much. I love him. And that was it was so nice for me to win the Open like that.
Yeah. Like basically the antithesis of what I want this week is Cam Smith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Watch him win now.
He's not going to win.
Russell Henley, who is a popular name this week.
Stop it.
Because everybody sees Furyk and Kevin Na and Zach Johnson.
Wait, did Nike drop him?
I just grabbed like a stock photo.
But what's funny is like he's clearly wearing Nike stuff, so Nike must have dropped him.
It's probably an old.
Like, I can't even deal with your boring ass.
Might be an old picture, but no. Listen, like the ones that like pure like great ball striker hits a lot of fairways. Yeah, there's definitely a path for him here, but
sure,
we're staying true to the game, and he did make the cut in his last major, and 15 of the last 17 winners did.
Love it.
So, sorry.
Who else we got?
He's out. Sepp Straka, who's also another interesting name, has missed both cuts this year. The Masters he's going
to be such chalk because he played well at Philly.
Well, I played well at Philly. Accurate driver, good long iron player, like you would think of like him would be pretty good. But again, I have nothing wrong with a profile player, I think, because I think this is more fair than like a Wingfoot to hit fairways. But again, we're staying very true to the game. And he's out. This one will warm your heart. Justin Thomas gets eliminated.
He's worthless.
He's worthless.
If he's on the Ryder Cup team, listen, the hardest thing for me this year in golf is going to be me balancing out my love for Keegan and the rest of this Ryder Cup team. Like now Sam Burns has got a second place. And so I know his sorry ass is going to be on the team. This cocksucker fucking wins the fucking Heritage, and he's going to be on the fucking team. And I am not. God damn it. Like, I love Keegan, but there's no way I can support the rest of them. You know what I mean?
Luke Clan's going to win the Rocket Mortgage. He's going to be on the team.
You stop that. You stop.
I'm just preparing for a couple months down the road. But no, JT too erratic off the tee.
Yeah, he stinks off the tee. He's terrible. He's gonna be fucking.
No, so that's an easy cross off.
Look at that fucking picture. I hate JT.
Look at this pretty face though.
Oh, he's
love
a sexy
to go
man.
He is very handsome. Prince. But he missed the cut in the last major.
My wife loves some Ludwig.
Yeah, so this is an example of a guy who's a premier driver. Who you're starting on second base at this point, but God,
so straight.
The last couple, he's such a freaking bonehead.
Yeah,
he makes
he's young, man.
Like, do you see what he did on number 12 or 11?
Yes,
on Friday, made the 7.
Yeah. Terrible.
Just dumb decisions. Same thing. Memorial, dumb decisions there. Like we've seen so much just knuckleheadness.
Yeah,
and
young.
Like I'm trying to think guys
talented. He's the Brett Favre of golf. How's that? Think about that. I'm gonna make that.
No,
I'm gonna make.
I wouldn't go that.
No, all right, fine. That might be a little strong, but I'm gonna make that throw. Right. I have this tiny little window, and I'm gonna try to stick it in there, and then he's gonna get picked off. Right. Same kind of thing.
Okay. Like I'm trying to think of guys who.
I mean, he's not ripping off welfare in Mississippi and taking money away from people who actually need it because he's a piece of shit scumbag. But.
So I'm trying to think of guys who can you keep it together?
Steve just stays silent. It's like, no.
I want to make a point. I'm trying to think of guys who will keep it together for 4 days at Oakmont without completely just embarrassing themselves one of the days. I just don't trust Ludwig to.
No, I don't trust him at all. No, absolutely
no. No, I think he can play very well because he just drives the piss out of the ball, and I think that's going to help him. But there's going to be times he does something really stupid.
But look at that smile.
But look at it, he's going to be handsome.
Look at that smile. That's $1 million smile.
Yeah. So I like the idea of Ludwig. He's got to tighten up that game, though. I don't trust him for 4 days. He's out. Okay. 14 of the last 17 winners have a top 10 at a major before. So, like, showing that you can actually, showing that you can, like, actually maybe play well here. And this typically was the get the fuck out of here Neiman criteria. We get him out of the game. Here's the problem, though. We no longer can kick Joaquin Neiman. Yeah, we can't. He got his top 10. He got it.
Hey, who won Live this week?
Joaquin Neiman did.
Interesting.
I know. Man, just killing it over Graham McDowell and Bubba and Phil. Just taking all the old guys' lunch money. But anyways, 14 of the last 17 have had at least a top 10 at a major before. And there's only one guy who has survived this far that has not. And you're going to laugh. Maverick McNeely.
Oh, fuck out of here.
I know.
I thought he was cool. I thought he was cool because he played hockey. I was like, oh, maybe he's tough. And then I remember his name's Maverick McNeely, and he's a fucking weenie.
He looks like that.
Look at that asshole.
Okay. 14 of the last 17 winners have a top 15 finish at least one of the last 4 majors. So, like, have recent good major experience.
In the last year. Yep.
Yeah. Bobby Mack just missed out.
Yeah.
But you're happy about that.
Yeah. Fuck him.
Okay. He can drive it very well, though. Like, this might be somebody I could be interested in positionally because he does hit it relatively far and can hit a lot of fairways when he gets it going. But
listen, unless there's a sprinkler head in one of these ditches, forget about it.
Yeah. Tommy Fleetwood was flowing locks. Best finished T16 in his last 4 majors. So again, though, somebody who he's been hitting it pretty well all year, drives it really good.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, like he definitely
20. Top 20, top 10, maybe.
Yeah. But again, we stay true to the rules of the game.
Yep.
And he's out. So now we come down.
You missed an opportunity to put Tommy on the crucifix because he looks like Jesus.
Ouch. All right. So now we come down to 12 guys. So start thinking 12 guys. Who have we not brought up yet?
Scottie, Rahm,
Mm-hmm.
Bryson.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just keep going. Come on.
Okay. I got them all on the screen.
We're almost 2 hours. We're almost 2 hours deep.
I got them all on the screen like it's the Hollywood Squares.
Oh, and you're gonna click it. Why is Rory?
Here they all are. We got Scottie,
dead.
Rory, Bryson, Xander.
Oh my God.
Rahm, Joaquin Neiman, Terrell Hatton, Keegan Bradley, Ben Griffin,
unreal Ben Griffin. Unreal.
Matt Fitzpatrick has somehow made it this far.
I have no idea how.
Harris English.
Wait, did he just miss the cut? At PG?
No, that's not a criteria at this point. Yeah.
No. I thought he missed the cut at the PGA, but he made it on the number, I think.
No, he finished top 10. That actually got him into a lot of this far, is finishing top 10 at Quail. So Harris English.
Okay.
And Taylor Pendrith, Mr. Chalk this week, who is the community ISM bet. I have not bet that yet, but he has made it this far.
Sure has.
So let's start kind of whittling down based on like stats and just what I think is going to work here. So look, just are you a good tee to green? Like 15 last 17 winners been inside the top 50 strokes gained tee to green. The 2 exceptions was actually Brooks in both years. Funny enough. So, but everybody else is comfortably inside the top 50.
Okay.
What's sad is that a guy I like this week, Harris English, is outside the top 50.
How?
But man, I like him. Here's the problem.
He just won.
Well, he won it a couple months ago. The problem is that there are some disastrous performances, like ball striking, where he loses like 2 strokes per round on approach or things like that. So that's what knocks him down.
He looks like a cartoon character in real life.
But he has shown a lot of spike iron weeks this year, and he's driving it really good.
Well, I bet him at 125 to 1.
Well, so did I. That's currently the only bet I have is Harris English 125
I have him
to 1.
I have him and Gary at 200.
Yeah. Because when I think about boring, solid golf, I think Harris English, and he's playing really good.
He plays well.
I think that's going to play
golf courses.
Yeah, I think that's going to play good this week at Oakmont. Okay. So, rest in peace, though. We stay true to the game.
We will stick true to the game.
Yeah. Matt Fitzpatrick is also out.
Yeah, fuck off, nerd.
Okay.
Goodbye.
All right. We got to drive the golf ball pretty good, right? 15 last 17 winners were top 50 off the tee. Or let's use top 10 for live. Okay. I wanted to be kind of generous. All right.
All right.
So, I mean, because, I was also looking too, like everybody hits at 300 now. So I'm trying to widen it right at this point. Ben Griffin, a little too erratic off the tee to make it. So,
and he sucks on Sundays.
Oh, no. Yeah, he does suck on Sundays.
He sucks on Sundays.
Yeah. He drives it pretty far though. Now he's picked up a lot of
speed. He got all types of ball speed now.
Yeah. But he's eliminated. By the way, first off, did I miss where Cam Young got eliminated? Well, first off, I didn't even put him in the game because he was just so low. Second of all, he hasn't won. So yeah.
He hasn't won ever. Because he's never going to win a golf tournament.
Yeah, he's eliminated with the can't category. Yeah. I think
he couldn't beat Peter Malnati. Okay. Yeah. And he had a chance to go to a playoff and he bogeyed a fucking par 5 today to miss out on the playoff because he fucking stinks.
There you go. All right. So Ben Griffin, not a good enough driver or not a consistent enough driver to win. He also said, by the way, he said he shot +4 in a practice round and thought like he would sign for that. That might be the best he can do there, to be honest.
Yes. I guess it depends on how it's going to play, right? +4.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to ask my opinion, actually, I heard Bob Ford again. He said, usually if it's softer Oakmont, because kind of like what I said, like it's incredibly difficult, but it's fair.
Yeah.
And you can shoot a low score there if it's a little softer and receptive.
Yeah.
Or it can go the other way, like it did in 2007, winning scores like +7.
Love it.
So if we're going to get a little more softer conditions, like can you imagine softer,
can you imagine a +7 winner? Oh my God.
Yeah. I think probably minus. It'll be around. I think what DJ shot probably -4, 5, 6. Yeah,
that's fine.
Maybe maybe even like Pinehurst was what -7 last year, and that's an extremely difficult golf course.
That's true.
Yeah, like maybe somebody separates and gets themselves up there. So, like I know we talk about how difficult it is. Yeah. Anyways, Ben Griffin's out. Xander's out. Xander's driving it far, but he's not driving it straight.
No.
And that's, I think, a problem this week.
Yeah. He plays so well at US Opens, though.
I know he does. But like, it's like every week I've been like, we're only looking at this from a winner standpoint, right? And every week we get on this show and we say, like, there's some things we're encouraged with Xander, but he's sloppy in certain moments. And I just don't think he's ready to win. And I think this is just another example of, I just don't think he's shown anything to like really win.
Especially at his number.
Yeah. So he's out. Okay. Now we're going to make some people upset. This is extremely nitty gritty, but 14 last 17 winners between the ages of 26 and 32. So again, this is a semi-serious game, guys. We got to eliminate some guys somehow. Okay. And we're going to choose to be ageist. You are simply too old to win the US Open. Keegan Bradley, you are too old to win the US Open.
Fine. I guess.
Oh yeah. No pushback either.
No.
Okay.
No.
He's
So I think if it was more of a test of longer irons, then I would be more inclined because that's where he can separate himself. But if we're talking 150 and in, then we're good.
well,
He's long and straight.
I think he separates himself because he drives the piss out of the ball.
Yeah, but I think he's such a good long iron player too, as far as like in major contention.
Yeah, I think he can play well this week with how well he's driving it.
I think
sure.
Top 10, top 20, absolutely.
Yeah. Taylor Pendrith.
Stinks.
Too old, by the way. He's 34.
Wait, fucking Christ. Hold on. Time out. He's that old?
Yeah, he's like 34 years old. He's not some young gun.
God.
Yeah, 34.
Wow.
So too old to win a US Open, apparently. But again, like from a statistical standpoint, like really elite driver, solid iron player, like shaky with the putters. We saw many times. This week. He finished top 10 at Quail. He did well at Pinehurst last year. I think he did well at Wingfoot as well. So, some major pedigree of like big boy tournaments that reward good driving, some good showings there. So, he's on my radar for maybe positional, but I don't think he's going to win.
Yeah. And it's an ISN community bet. Apparently, everybody's already on him at like
that's
silly numbers.
That's fine.
So, yeah,
that's fine. I'm comfortable. I think just doing positional this week, and that's probably kiss of death. So congratulations, everybody. You're going to catch Taylor Pendrith this week. We're not right. I will probably shadow bet it out of spite. Terrell Hatton, too old to win. Yeah. I was actually surprised with how far he got in this game because he hasn't been. And also, this doesn't have the most it doesn't have the most updated numbers from today with Liv, and I wouldn't be surprised if he fell out of some stat categories. Like he hasn't been all that good this year.
Listen, you leave my doppelganger alone.
Okay. All right. Well, he's out. And Rory, you are just simply too old and to win a US Open now.
He's checked out.
Checked out. Okay.
He's checked out. I'm telling you, I was right. He's checked out.
Again, semi-serious game. Okay. But we have 4 survivors, and it's going to be no probably surprise.
Bryson,
3 of them
Rahm, Scottie.
Yeah. So normally when we get down to the survivors, it's 3 guys who are no surprise. And then we have kind of like a oddball.
Yeah. Who's the 4th guy?
Who's
the 4th guy?
So Scottie.
Bryson, Rahm. Who's the 4th?
And Joaquin Niemann.
We got fucking 3.
That warms Dave's heart that he made it all the way through the elimination game. Here's the thing, though. The oddball candidate that survives usually falls flat on his face. At the Masters, it was Russell Henley.
Yeah.
They
missed the cut.
Yeah. At the US Open last year, it was Tagala. Like it's not necessarily a good thing for some of these surprise guys. But look, like he finally did at least show up to a major. Now it was a backdoor performance.
Hey man,
but hey, you got
Rahm. How many backdoor top 10 majors did Rahm have?
That's true.
He finally came through.
He is despite what you want to say about the wins he has talent. He has natural talent.
Oh, absolutely.
That would fit well in like a major championship.
Yep.
So, but that can be kind of a kiss of death to be the surprise winner. So, all right. So that's it. We went 2 hours.
Those four
that apparently are the only ones that can win. So, but I mean, as I pointed out, though, even though they didn't make it to the end, there's definitely guys who have my interest this week that either might not be showing as good a form what I think they have, or they're just really good drivers. So you had made bets. You bet Harris English.
Yep.
With me.
And Gary Woodland.
Did you bet Rahm as well?
Not yet.
I haven't either.
I don't know what to do yet. I'm confused. I feel like everybody's on Rahm now. We can save it for the betting show.
Okay, let's save it for the betting show. Let's put it this way. I haven't ruled out Scottie. Just doing that.
Yeah,
I haven't ruled out Bryson.
Okay.
Despite my half-hour talk about this,
I think I have ruled out Bryson.
You have? No, like if he drives it that good again,
I know.
like yeah. There's nothing about this golf course that like if he drives it that good, like he
uneven lines.
Outstanding. Yeah, but that's not true with Augusta anymore.
I know.
That's not true. Rahm is definitely in consideration. I'm out on Xander, out on JT, out on Rory.
Yep.
The comments he made about the driver were concerning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Colin's in play, sadly.
Stop it.
Spieth is in play.
Spieth is in play. I like that.
Spieth is definitely in play. That's really about it, though. So I'm gonna have to think about some sort of no, I'm not on Neiman. Even though he made it to the end of the game, I'm not in. I'm not in.
And for that reason, I'm out.
There you go. So, all right, that's it.
All right, betting show. Come follow us on Tuesday. We'll be back on Tuesday night, 9:00. You'll have all our betting. Yeah, that's it. Shit, man. What an amazing show, Steve. Thank you for all the work you did, bro. I appreciate it. Yeah, come on Tuesday. We'll have a bunch of fun bets because look, if somebody at the top of the board is going to win and we're not on them, we'll still have a bunch of matchups, top 20s, top 5s, top 10s. Yeah, come follow us on Tuesday. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Bye.